What's going on, guys? It's John Dion here, and today I want to talk to you about leveraging equity in an existing property to use as a deposit for an investment property. The equity in your existing property can be calculated by taking the market value of your property and minusing the amount that you owe on your mortgage. A good example of this is, say you had a property worth $500,000 and you only owed $400,000 on your mortgage. This difference of $100,000 means you've got $100,000 worth of equity just sitting in your property. Equity can be generated from three main sources. The first one is by paying off your home loan over time. This way, you're decreasing the amount that you owe on your mortgage. The second one is something that we call manufacturing equity. And basically, this is just adding value to your property in the form of, say, like a renovation or adding a granny flat. Basically, anything that's going to increase the value of your property can be considered as manufacturing that equity. The last source is through capital growth, which is basically just the value of your property increasing over time. On average here in Australia, there's been an annual growth rate of 6.8% for houses and 5.9% for units. An example of the first scenario is, say you bought a property 3 years ago, but the value has just flatlined over these 3 years. So you bought it back then for $540,000 and it's remained that value until this day. It's still only worth $540,000. However, over those same 3 years, you've managed to pay down your mortgage to $380,000. So the value of your property is still at $540,000, but you've managed to pay your mortgage down to $380,000. This means that you'd have $160,000 worth of equity just sitting there in your property. An example of the second scenario where we're manufacturing equity is, say you bought an older property that needed to have some work done. You bought it for $420,000, you spent $40,000 on renovations, and after 6 months, your house has now been revalued at $500,000. You've now manufactured $80,000 worth of additional equity on your property. So regardless of how much you still owe on your mortgage, you've increased the value of the property to $500,000 and you bought it at $420,000. So you've manufactured that extra $80,000 worth of equity. Regardless of how much your mortgage is at, you've added that value. Lastly, as I was describing before, capital growth is just the value increase on your property over time. So let's say you bought a property for $500,000 3 years ago. Naturally, over that 3-year period, the capital growth on your property should have increased the value to $609,000. So if you bought it at $500,000 and it's now worth $609,000, you've generated additional equity of $109,000 on your property. There are plenty of Australians out there who have bought their dream family home, paid their mortgage off over the years, done little renovations here and there as they're needed, and are most likely sitting on a goldmine of equity in their property. This equity can be used as a deposit for an investment property. However, just note that if you are taking equity out of an existing property, you're actually increasing the loan amount. You're borrowing that additional funds, up to a maximum of 80% LVR without paying lender's mortgage insurance. If we take our capital growth example that we were talking about before, where we originally purchased a property for $500,000 and now it's increased to $609,000, on an 80% LVR, the original loan amount should be around $400,000. That's 80% of $500,000. Based on the new $609,000 evaluation, on an 80% LVR, we can actually increase our mortgage to $487,000. So now we've got $487,000 minus our original $400,000. We've freed up this $87,000 worth of equity to use as a deposit for an investment property. You can, of course, always pay lender's mortgage insurance, depending if the bank will allow it or not. And sometimes pulling out these additional funds is worth way more than the amount that it's going to cost you. Using the same example, on a 90% LVR, we can increase the mortgage to $548,000. And at 95% LVR, we can increase the mortgage further to $578,000, freeing up $148,000 and $178,000 respectively. Using these numbers, on a 90% LVR, the lender's mortgage insurance premium, which is just the amount that you have to pay because you've pulled out the additional funds, so it's the insurance amount, it's the insurance premium that you have to pay, would be about $14,000. And for a 95% LVR, it would be about $29,000. So basically, on the higher end of the scale, you'd be paying $29,000 for the premium to borrow an additional $91,000 of equity to use as a deposit. The lender's mortgage insurance premium is a once-off, non-refundable fee that is due at the end of loan settlement. And for most lenders, this amount can be included in the total loan amount. Just note that if the lender's mortgage insurance premium is added to the total loan amount, you're actually going to be paying interest on that as well. You're not just going to be paying interest on the amount that you borrowed for your home, but you're adding an additional lender's mortgage insurance premium at, $29,000. You're going to be paying interest on that as well. To calculate your lender's mortgage insurance premium, multiply your LMI rate by your total loan amount. So for a 90% LVR, $578,000 loan, your LMI rate is going to be 3.998%, which is going to calculate to be $23,108. You then need to add your stamp duty to your LMI, which is applicable for the state that your property is in. I would highly recommend using one of the many online calculators to do this. Once you've refinanced your mortgage, you can pull this equity out in two main formats. The first one is a lump sum payment, where you can have the funds deposited into an account or pull them out in the form of a check. The second is something called a drawdown, where you can pull the money out as it's needed. This can be done in the form of something called a drawdown facility or the use of an offset account. This works well for renovations because you can use it to pay as you go, only paying interest on the funds as you use them. Whereas if you were to use a lump sum payment, you're actually paying interest on the full amount the day that you pull it out. I'll use an offset account as an example here. An offset account is its own unique account, but it's tied into your mortgage. However, any funds that are in this account are seen as offsetting against your total loan amount. Meaning, when your lender calculates the amount of interest that you owe, they're going to take the amount still sitting in your home loan, but reduce it by the amount sitting in your offset account. However, you can freely withdraw and deposit from your offset account as you see fit. Taking our previous 80% LVR example, where we could increase our mortgage from $400,000 up to $487,000, giving us $87,000 worth of equity that we can use as a deposit. When we're ready to do that, we can take that $87,000 and deposit it straight into the offset account. Because you've now got that $87,000 in an offset account, when your lender goes to calculate the amount of interest payable, they're going to take the total loan amount, which is $487,000, reduce it by the amount in the offset account, which is $87,000, and calculate the interest payable at $400,000. So you're no better off than you were originally, right? Your original mortgage was $400,000 and you're paying interest on that. And now you're only paying $400,000 worth of interest too. But you've got that $87,000 worth of equity to use as a deposit and pull out whenever you need to, ready for the next investment. Lenders will need to know the reason why you want to borrow this additional equity. And most of them require an application, an evaluation of your property to determine its current market value, and evidence of the ability to pay off the new total loan amount. From our scenario before where we're using an offset account to store our deposit, it's best to withdraw this total amount from our first home with one bank and use it as a deposit for our second investment property with a separate bank. You don't want these two properties tied into the same loan together. As always, seek your own professional financial advice. These videos are just my opinion and the way that I've used equity to leverage myself ahead. If you want more content like this, hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you don't miss a video. And until next time, happy house hunting. As a final note, avoid cross-categorization here, which you generally get trapped in if you use the same bank for both property loans.